8 million data centers around the world are processing our entire online lives thousands of times a second. With our reliance on cloud-based services expected to be at an all-time high in 2021 due to a huge shift online pushed forward by the ongoing pandemic, the need for the most energy and time-efficient data centers is crucial moving forward. On the 9th of July 2020, the tech giant reeled up what it calls its Northern Isles, a 12.2-meter-long steel cylinder from the seabed. The giant tube remained 117 feet below the surface for 2 whole years, gathering data which would later be analyzed by engineers. The company chose to locate this long-term experiment 10 miles off the coast of Scotland in the Orkney Isles archipelago. Here, 100% of the energy comes from environmentally green sources such as wind and solar. Sinking this facility in an airtight, waterproof container alleviates some of these concerns. Consistently cool temperatures, for example, help with thermoregulation. That means less energy required to keep the computers cool, a plus for the environment as well as our pockets. After all, breaking into a conventional data center with its highly trained armed security seems easy compared to reaching it on the sea floor. From this one experiment, the various teams of engineers and researchers at Microsoft have deduced that syncing a data center like this is 8 times more reliable than housing computers in land-based warehouses. Rather than the frequent maintenance required by their land-based counterparts, these ocean dwellers are built to survive half a decade before returning to the surface for a full health check.
1G brought us the very first cell phones, 2G let us text for the first time, 3G brought us online, and 4G delivered the speeds that we enjoy today. But as more users come online, 4G networks have just about reached the limit of what they're capable of at a time when users want even more data for their smartphones and devices. Now we're headed toward 5G, the next generation of wireless. It will be able to handle 1,000 times more traffic than today's networks, and it'll be up to 10 times faster than 4G LTE. Just imagine downloading an HD movie in under a second. 5G will be the foundation for virtual reality, autonomous driving, the Internet of Things, and stuff we can't even yet imagine. The Internet of Things and stuff we can't even yet imagine. But right now there are 5 brand new technologies emerging as the foundation of 5G. Millimeter waves, small cells, massive MIMO, beamforming, and full duplex.
On March 30th of 2016, 10 African countries were taken completely offline for 2 full days after just one cable was inadvertently cut by a lone fishing trawler. You may be surprised to learn just how dependent the world is on underwater cable infrastructure for internet access. Although many of us consistently use wireless devices, the most critical piece of the internet is the network of undersea submarine cables that provide international connections to servers abroad and connect continents and islands to the World Wide Web. This begs the greater question as to just how many of these cables exist and how dependent is the World Wide Web on this underwater infrastructure. Today, over 99% of all international internet traffic is routed through a network of over 420 submarine cables in service, stretching over 700,000 miles around the world. This is equivalent to wrapping a single cable over 28 times around the Earth's equator. This vast network of cables provides the underlying infrastructure to the internet's high bandwidth highways. These cables use optical fiber to provide average data transmission rates of 35 terabits per second, which is crazy because just over 5 years ago, the average data rate was only 9 terabits per second, which equates to nearly a 4 times increase. Some of the newer and most cutting-edge cables, such as the Maria cable, which in Spanish stands for high tide, are even faster. This cable, which is owned and funded by Microsoft and Facebook, connects Virginia Beach, Virginia in the United States to Bilbao, Spain, and is capable of data transmission rates of up to 160 terabits per second. This is the equivalent of streaming 71 million HD videos at the same time, and it is 16 million times faster than the average home internet connection. The makeup and production of these cables is also extremely important. Submarine cables are typically thick in size, with most being 3 to 4 inches in diameter, while the actual wire the internet runs across is typically no thicker than a human hair. This is because the majority of the cable's purpose is strictly for protection. After these core layers, the remaining layers are strictly for protection and include the polycarbonate layer, the aluminum water barrier, thick stranded steel wires, a layer of mylar tape, and tar coating for ruggedness and protection. The process of laying the cable is equally as important as the production of the cable. The laying of the cable is performed by a special trawler ship that is capable of carrying giant spools of internet cables and unreeling them as it passes from shore to shore. After being loaded onto a ship's hull in large spools, the reels will be unwound as the ship travels along the mapped route. A sea plow is towed along the back of the ship as well to aid in burying the cable a few inches below the surface for added protection. At the end of the installation process, extensive testing and inspection of the cable is performed before the cable is put into service. Now, you may be wondering when this vast network of undersea cables began. Surprisingly enough, the first undersea cable was laid over 177 years ago, all the way back in 1842, when Samuel Morse, the developer of Morse code and commercial telegraphy, decided to submerge a cable insulated with tarred hemp and India rubber in the waters of New York Harbor to run a telegraph through it. After a successful experiment, it wasn't long after this in 1858 when the first transatlantic telegraph cable was laid between the United States and Great Britain. This connection, with endpoints in Newfoundland and Ireland, allowed communication between the transatlantic shipping companies to go from a matter of weeks to just a matter of minutes.